Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the ninth session of the calibration program of C-Voucher. Before we start, just wanted to make a warning for you and let you know that we're recording the session. For those people who could not attend, we will share afterwards the recording in the community in case if you want to revisit or listen to it more carefully. Also, for those of you who are coming for the first time, I would like to make a short introduction to the voucher and the calibration program so that you are with appropriate background, right? So, as you probably know, the voucher is a pan-European acceleration program. It has a focus on circular economy, and it's been running for almost 3 years now. We've been supporting companies in the transition to circular to circular economy, and through 2 different programs of acceleration. One long one, 9 months, involving design thinking and technology implementation, and a short one, also including design thinking but shorter, 3 months time. Yeah. So we've accelerated as far 12 circular solutions and 42 business cases. And I think that from this experience, from this 3 years experience, we've got very interesting and actionable learnings that we would like to share with you, with some other people, which is also trying to create a program to boost the circular economy. And this is the reason for the calibration program. Today, we will talk about how to keep track on the quality assurance and on the performance of the project. And for this, we've got today with us Virginia Vidal and Manuel Paris, both from the Galician Innovation Agency, which is one of our regional innovation hubs. And there are 6 of them in our consortium, which is made up by 12 panels. Right? So before I give the floor to them and let them explain, I just wanted to make a couple of remarks on the operative for the session, if you allow me. So if you have questions during the session, you'll see that there's a questions section in the right side menu, and you can write there anything you would like to know. We will try to catch up with all the questions by the end of the session. We'll have a short Q&A slot. And if you rather prefer to speak up, just raise your hand and I'll open the microphone for you at the end of the session, as I told you. So if everything's clear, I think this is it. Okay. So Virginia, Manuel, yeah, the floor is yours. So please.
Good afternoon. Can you see the screen, the presentation?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we'll start. So as Almudena has introduced, you know about the C-Voucher project. You have been talked about this project in previous sessions. I'd just like to add that today we are going to talk about how, as she said, how we can ensure the quality of the service provided to the project, and also to provide some information for thought about future possibilities of this program. So apart from the project itself, one important issue in this in C-Voucher is that the way it was promoted, bringing in, let's say, a sustainability, circular economy issues in the framework of the smart specialization strategies in the RIS3, has in the end become kind of an anticipation of what it has now been, or that is being presented by the Commission about the RIS3 plus sustainability, or what they are starting to use the word expression RIS4 sometimes. So this is something that is very much in line with what C-Voucher has been doing. So that also means that in the taking into account this RIS4 let's say, a concept that the Commission is spreading, it also means that they expect that regions play a role in the transition to a more sustainable economy, more in which the circular economy for the industry is also an important element. Okay, so this is something that has been very good for the regions participating, because it has been kind of a training for us also to adapt to the new period. And but also it has been important. I mean, we have these lessons for the next period, but we have to go through a process in which we have been learning by doing, and by correcting, and by identifying our own errors and trying to improve. And this is something that we also would like to highlight today. So as you know, this C-Voucher is an acceleration program, and it had several of steps that were taken, let's say, through the process. It is important to mention them because all the monitoring we have been doing through the process has been related to these phases and these different steps taken. So first of all, as you know, we had a number of clusters of industrial partners who provided us with the necessary knowledge about the industry and the sectors themselves. They helped us very much to identify the challenges and the needs of the industry, and that helped to start creating, let's say, the necessary elements for the subsequent phases. One of them was the circularity space that I think you were mentioned about in the previous presentations, and then there were these two types of call for proposals. One on circularity program that was called, and the second one was the replication of these circular solutions that were elaborated or developed in the circular phase. And then finally, we had this action about how to be able to keep this going, so to say. And part of that phase is this monitoring all the work that has been done since the very beginning. So for this, of course, we established a strategy to ensure that what we are doing is, let's say, bringing us or taking us to where we want to get, what we want to achieve. So it is also important because we are putting money on the company, so we want to know if we are investing well. So some elements were introduced. Of course, you always need some key performance indicators so that you can know what you have to monitor. But this is something you can do, let's say, with your own resources or just with desk work. But we also put a focus on seeing if our, let's say, users were satisfied with the services being receiving. The beneficiaries of the vouchers were really happy with them. And also, it was important to get their feedback about what is not working well. So all this was taken into account, and this helped us to get to a point by the end of the project, what we are approaching now, with which we think we have a model that can be sustainable and that can be kept working after this horizon, let's say 2020 money is over. So we defined a number of KPIs. This is just to give you an example. This is what we did in this project. So as we were working with the companies in the call for proposals, we needed to know if we were attracting companies, if companies were delivering what we expect. We also had KPIs on impact. We wanted to know, as we said, if companies were, let's say, delivering what we expect in the end, if we are having an impact in the circularity of the industry. And we also had a communication and dissemination KPIs. It is important because in the end, it is related to the two previous ones. I mean, you need to get to the companies, you need to get the information there, but the information has the purpose to, let's say, stimulate the participation of the companies, and that they understand what we are offering and expecting from the participants. Also, another step we took at the very beginning was identifying some critical aspects for the whole performance of the program. So, for instance, we introduced this concept of designer in residence applied to circular economy. In that moment, we hadn't heard about any other action with this profile, presenting this profile for this type of content for the circular economy. So this could be a critical aspect, identifying the right people to perform this role. Then we also wanted to, or we involved clusters, and we needed a clear commitment from them so that we could obtain the benefits we expected from them. Sometimes they were clusters that we were used to work with, some of the partners, some others were pretty new, so there was also this uncertainty there. Then the SMEs applying for our vouchers, they were receiving money to, let's say, hire suppliers for solutions they would like to get, and this solution should be really disrupting. So this is also another critical issue. Where was the market going to be able to deliver, so to say, these solutions they needed? Then we also, the companies getting the grants were also offered additional investment, not as grants, but as loans or co-investors. So this is something that, as we are talking about classical SMEs, sometimes very small, so they could be a bit reluctant. And also then after we had these solutions, for instance, we needed some companies interested in, let's say, following the example or testing what the others had been developing. We had other critical aspects identified, but I think these were maybe the most relevant in this case. And finally, we had these aspects we put the focus on. We had the KPIs, but we needed to collect the information. So this information came from project partners themselves. I mean, our own experience by running the program, by being in contact with companies, also with the designers in residence that were the elements in permanent contact with the companies. It was part of the partners staff. So we could provide feedback to the program. We also had feedback from the applicants. This was just through direct contact, but also through established and programmed questionnaires and moments during the process in which we require the information. Also from the beneficiaries, in the end, those who really got the voucher, not only the applicants, but also those, the selected ones. And finally, these clusters collaborating with us also provided with very useful information. This is just built on the previous one. This is an example you can find there of one of the forms we use with companies, with applicants and beneficiaries to get their feedback about the performance. We evaluated, as we said at the beginning, we have all these phases, so they were questioned about not only how the services were being provided to them, their satisfaction, but also about the application process, about the dissemination actions we had implemented so that we could improve for the next, let's say, the second round of calls mainly. So we had these monthly calls between all the partners, so it was quite intense. We had satisfaction surveys through these questionnaires with the companies. And as we said, this is systematic feedback throughout the project. It is important to mention too that the companies, mainly the beneficiaries, were requested for their feedback not only during the project process, let's say the moment in which all the time they were using the grant, but also after that. so that we could track some further steps. So as for instance, some results on this. We had this first circularity call. After that, we had this, or during the implementation of the projects, we had some say feedback from different sources, and that helped us to identify some issues to be improved, and we will see later. And this will help us, for instance, for the second call, to increase the quality in the proposals, to increase participation. Even if you see that the increase is very limited, only from 87 to 90, there were more drafts. So there were more people interested in trying, even if finally it was just almost the same number. But we managed to get a more balanced participation in between different countries and regions. That meant that in some of our findings were related to the performance we had towards some maybe countries or some regions. So that also that was accomplished. This better balance was accomplished through those improvements. And we also managed to get a more balanced level or number of applications in the 5, let's say, domains or sectors that were included in the project. That is the figure shown below. The same happened with the participation in the adopters calls. Here we really had a clear increase of numbers of proposals received from 120 to 178, even though we had a decrease in the number of countries. So this is something that if we were going to have a third call, this was something that we had to analyze, that we should analyze and try to avoid it happening again. I mean, we need to recover there. So we did something better regarding the total numbers, but we did something wrong on the other hand. So maybe the changes we implemented were not 100% the best ones we should have introduced. Again, we had more quality proposal, more proposals with good quality. But as I said, we had a higher representation of proposals from partner regions. This is what we meant. Maybe we put too much focus on these regions and not, and we forgot a little bit about the transnational aspect of the project. So some of the findings that helped us to introduce the changes that then had an impact in the participation in the calls. For instance, we noticed that there was, and this is something that I think we can be useful for anyone that wants to or that is interested in working in a transnational call for proposals implemented through regions like Heranets, for instance, or any other instruments. For instance, there was a low level of participation in some regions and sectors, and especially in some of the calls, mainly in the circular ones. We noticed that, for instance, in some regions where the ERDF is still quite big, some companies prefer, mainly the small ones, prefer to apply to the programs in their own region instead of going into the transnational ones, because the co-funding is quite good and there is still a number of calls available in the region and in quite good amounts. Again, the language is also an important barrier sometimes for these companies, because you know that the proposal had to be written in English, even if they were quite simple. We got a lot of, let's say, disruptors instead of classical SMEs. This was something dealing with the language, we think. It was something we had to change and improve. Then in the adopters, the adopters had a chance or the option of linking or somehow matching their proposals with some of the circular solutions developed in the first or in the circular calls of the project. But they also had the option of introducing a project not linked, not matching any one of these circular solutions already developed in the framework of C-Voucher. So instead of getting an alignment of the adopters with the companies developing circular solutions, we got more the effect of the awareness rising. Okay, so it helped companies, seems that it helped more to realize that they could do something in the circular domain than just say taking something which is already there and putting in practice in their companies. Then we also noticed that the use of the further investment that we suggested to companies, both public or private, was not as suspected. Two issues could be pointed here. One is, of course, was the COVID situation that came in the middle of the process. So maybe for some companies had to struggle, so it was not maybe the best moment to look for investments on new things. But on the other hand, it might be too soon for some of them, or some commented about this, that it was not the right moment for them. So maybe this is something that can still happen in the coming months. A common complaint by a good number of companies was that the implementation time we had for the projects was a bit too short sometimes. There was like for every administration, I think, and also for the European projects, there is always the complaint of too much bureaucracy. We try, as the framework programs, Horizon, we all know that when a new round of 7 years is starting, they always say this is a more simple system, that we have reduced bureaucracy, but in the end, it seems that everything remains the same. So it looks like we face the same situation here. And then we also noticed was more internal, more inside the partnership, that the evaluation process in the end was quite complex, because there were several phases and there was a quite high number of evaluators because of the number of phases. So in the end, the system became a bit slow. We introduced changes, and it seems that in the end it worked better. It's still complex, but it worked better. So based on these issues we identified, we introduced some actions. One of them was reinforcing communication and dissemination. We used the European Enterprise Network nodes all over Europe. In some regions, this is the case for ourselves. For Galicia, we increased the collaboration with regional clusters, and that had an impact in the number of proposals and drafts coming from our region in the calls. So we were better in the second round of calls than in the first. We also introduced changes in the application procedure, and it seems also that it has worked. Linked to that, we also changed some expressions. We use a more user-friendly language based on complaints of companies. And as already mentioned, we changed the evaluation process, and it seems that it was improved. And as we saw in the images, we had this discrete number of applications in the second round of calls. We had a more even participation across regions, better balance among the topics. The quality was again increased, and we think that the quality of the applications was better, and that also had an impact in the implementation. I mean, altogether, the projects were better in the application, but also in the implementation. And we also, the feeling with the feedback from the companies is that the services provided by C-Voucher, let's say, environment, was also improved. Then this is about you see that we have focused so much on the calls. That's because and the implementation of the vouchers, and that's because it was basically the great deal of our work. But then, as we said, we can have the numbers, we can have a better applications, better performance, but then you need to have an impact in the circularity of the industry. And that's the final aim of the project. So do we really have this impact? You know that a key challenge for programs promoting innovation is, I mean, the great challenge is to avoid that projects end up on a shelf. That's so common that it's not rare. A lot of initiatives have been taking place to avoid this, but still a great number of these projects end up like that. So for that, we had our own mechanisms, and it was just the follow-up we mentioned, not only during the voucher implementation, but also after, so that we also try to encourage companies to keep working on their projects. We also, you remember that we also mentioned that the use of this extra funding we suggested to companies was not, was not used as much as we expected. So there were a lot of reminders about this. There were some, let's say, when there were events after the voucher was over, or some even workshops organized for the beneficiaries of the project. Some other things were organized for that. And also the designers in residence, they were permanently there. So if something else was needed, with the companies already finishing the use of their voucher, these designers were also available for support, so that they also kept using some of the services of the project. Regarding the funding, advisors and experts on private and public funding were available for them throughout the whole period of the C-Voucher. I mean, if a company implementing the voucher in 2019, they could have access to these expert services until the very end of the C-Voucher project, which is going to be in 2 months. So they still can access to that now. And finally, we came across, this is something we hadn't prepared, we hadn't planned, but that can have, let's say, a good impact on the continuation of the projects after the voucher. It is something that it was like a good lesson for all of us, because we had, due to the COVID, there was some money that couldn't be used because of these events and traveling that were planned. With that money, we decided to use it for to create the C-Voucher prices. But C-Voucher prices consisted of small amounts of extra funding, but not to avoid the best, let's say, implementation of the voucher. Is this the opposite? Is to support the companies or the beneficiaries that, which after the voucher was over, kept taking steps. And what we try to award is those who, let's say, took the best, or which advanced the most, so to say, and in the best manner. So this means that in this case, these prices are provided by C-Voucher, but for instance, in similar programs in the future, this is something that could be done with budget coming from the regions, kind of a quality label. And we think that this could be a stimulation for the companies to really keep working on their projects with their own resources, or to make use of this additional funding, because in the end, this is like a price. So if there is some hesitation of if we should continue or not, at least we know that if we continue, there is a chance to get something additional. So based on this experience, for some of the beneficiaries of C-Voucher, presenting the further steps taking is not difficult. And for us to evaluate these further developments, it's not so difficult, because we have enough information. They had the time to do that. But on the other hand, there were companies participating in the second round of calls, which sometimes didn't have time to finish almost the voucher. I mean, the price comes and they are not ready to, let's say, to show new advances. So for that reason, in taking into account this experience, it seems that maybe the right time to set the prices is for, let's say, at least to have at least 1 year time between the end of the public, say, grant and the, let's say, evaluation of their developments for the prizes, for the awards. So as we said, this is very important because it helps us to measure the impact of the project in the future. It helps to get further impact. And in addition, it gives us a chance to monitor the evolution of the projects. So it has different elements, but I think that the most important is to increase the impact after the public money is over. So this is the experience we had, and now we are looking into the future. And as I said at the beginning, we think that is with the experience we had and the model we were able to develop and improve during this almost 3 years working together, we consider that we are in a good position to continue with this. The toolkit is there, the experience is there, and the will to continue is also there. And we are open, let's say, to also bring together with us other regions interested in this approach. The framework at the moment for the 2021-2027 period is very good for this. It's very, the circularity and the circular economy is a very hot topic. Not only hot, as it says there, but it's a very hot topic in the European Commission agenda. You see that there is the new circular economy action plan, really aggressive. They want to create a lot of jobs. There is also the circular economy stakeholders platform. I mean, new elements coming in. It's a joint initiative by the Commission and the Economic and Social Committee. And there is also the Circular Cities and Regions Initiative, which is very much in line with what we are presenting here. And it is something that is going to be very tangible because the Coordination and Support Office for this initiative is going to open pretty soon in Brussels. So there is a window for cities, for local and regional administrations to get support to initiate initiatives like this, implemented, launched, promoted from local and regional governments to help increase the circularity of the industry performance. The role of this office is going to be exactly supporting companies on how to do this. Oh, sorry, not companies. Cities and regions, local and regional administration, how to do this. They will support administrations with different tools, can be like C-Voucher tools, with good practice examples, with contacts, with advice on funding and different issues. So that's also another option, another opportunity there. Of course, this I think is on top of everything, is the Green Deal. And as we can see in this image, in the very top, doesn't mean that's on the top, but on this top of the image, we have this transition to a circular economy. So it's also going to be there. And of course, all this we have mentioned now has to be brought into the S3 strategies. This is coming back to the beginning of the presentation. The S3 will have to be also sustainable. We'll have to have a strong sustainable element. And this S4 expression is becoming more, let's say, common. We also have to keep in mind that in the framework of these RIS3s, of the new round of RIS3s, the transnational collaboration has to be present, well established, and has to be stronger. And it's going to be a requirement, not like in the previous round of RIS3 that was something that was there, but it was not an important say domain for the RIS3 elements. But in this new period, the transnational collaboration with other regions is going to be a must. So we need to have elements in our regional S3s to help this happen. So all in all, these two elements are very much in line with the C-Voucher toolkit benefits. So for that reason, I think that C-Voucher experience and results bring an opportunity to establish joint multi-regional fund. That is something that will fit very well in the new RIS3s, as we said, to mobilize these ESIF resources. There are different elements that we would like to discuss that we have on the table. One is the ERANET co-fund, whatever is going to be the name in the new partnerships. I don't know if it's going to be the same or there will be any changes. And then there is a new mechanism, this I3 instrument, which is interregional innovation investments, which is dedicated to support again multi-regional innovation agendas, let's say, or programs, like for instance the S3 platforms. So this is another framework in which we can, let's say, think of collaborating if we want to keep the C-Voucher going ahead. There is always the possibility to organize this as our own initiative and using our own, let's say, mechanisms and rules with no additional structures or systems or mechanisms that the European Commission has there. And sure, there will be other options. This is just the, let's say, we wanted to have a very small sample just to show that this is clearly possible and that the framework we have at the moment in front of us is very very suitable to keep this going. And that's it from our side. This is the information you already know, where you can find more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed for you, Manuel, for your presentation. So I hope it was interesting for you. I see that you have no questions. You're still in time to ask your questions, or if you rather prefer to speak out loud, just raise your hand and I'll open the mic for you. And just wanted to point out that some of the templates and instruments, surveys that were mentioned by Manuel throughout the presentation have been shared in the C-Voucher online community. In the space, we have a specific space for this calibration program, which is private, only for peers, like people like you who is working to create or implement a circular economy promotion program. You can get more information there. You can ask and not only get further support from us, but also kind of interact with the other participants in the space. Probably you have the same struggles and you're facing the same doubts and issues, right? So just wanted to invite you to visit the community. Yeah. So no questions this far. Would you like to add something else, Manuel, maybe?
Well, I think I have said enough, a lot. I think that the most critical or more interesting aspect to comment at this point can be the possibilities we have to make use of this of the C-Voucher experience and tools we have been developing for future actions. We are a group of organizations, 6 regions, but there is, I think, room for more regions to get involved. And as we said, this is something that will fit very well on what the European Commission expects and on the aims for the next period. So if somebody would like to comment about this, if somebody has an idea of it sounds reasonable, or if somebody can or want to discuss other options about this, would be very good.
So I see there's no questions, but I'll just drop our inbox address. If you have any further questions, you can always contact us through that means. And also, I was explaining before, you can check through the materials and get in contact with us. Sorry. Through the online community. Okay, so all templates and materials are there. Okay, so I guess this is it. Thank you very much for your attention. If there's no questions or any comments, I think we can close our session here, and I hope to see you soon in the community. Yeah, this is it. Thank you very much.